I'm going to start the recording, and then I'm going to share.
Hello, everyone.
There we go.
Can you hear me okay? Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our December evening education connection through each. Excited to have you all here. This is a glimpse into the residential program at HMS School. Okay. So thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to get to the agenda in just a minute, but we felt that actually the best way to kick off this event, because it's so student and family oriented, is actually not with a message from our HMS staff, but from one of our families. So this is a quote from one of our current families, the Carps. They will be speaking a little later on, but the Carps wanted to let everyone know that the HMS residence is active, fun, cozy, warm, and filled with Sam's friends. The HMS chefs are better cooks than mom and dad. The best decision we ever made for Sam. So thank you, Sookie, for sharing that with us.
Amen.
All right, so tonight we will do a welcome, done, check. That's what I always do when we do morning group. Check. Then we will hear from staff, we will hear from families, and we will have some time for questions. But feel free to ask questions during all the things. I'll steal Chris's line, jump in model. So if there's, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question or put a question in the chat. Julie and I will be keeping an eye on that throughout the event. And our objectives tonight are just to understand the different ways that you can participate in overnights at HMS, that it's not a one size fits all model, and really learning about the criteria for those overnights. And so first, we're going to go over to Laura Boyd. I have to say it out loud.
Thank you. Can I switch the slide? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Welcome to the families who are joining us tonight. I know we're always looking for the perfect time, and what we've learned is there is no perfect time. So we are trying to get these up and running and see how they go. But thank you for joining us tonight. When we talk about the HMS residence, it is different than other residential programs. And some of that is because at least the people that I'm seeing on this screen so far, your children are in our day school, so they know HMS. So when you're thinking about the HMS residence, it is not a separate entity, it is HMS. It's HMS from 3 p.m. until 8:45 the next morning, and it's over the weekends. It's staffed by HMS nurses, HMS PCAs, our rec department. We understand your students' physical, cognitive, communication, emotional needs. And the other component that I really want to impart to families is, I think when we talk about residence, we often talk about a 5-day program or a 7-day program, which is absolutely an option we can discuss. What we also have are consistent scheduling options, such as my child comes every Wednesday night, or we have periodic scheduling options, such as my child comes for a week in January or for a long weekend occasionally. And what is beneficial about this is that it is a level of flexibility that I don't believe other residences often have. The nice part about that is you can make it work for your life if it is something that is the right match for you and your family. So for instance, I wrote down the quick ones: sibling needs, work, travel, self-care, shift care staffing, upcoming events. I can think of students staying residentially for absolutely every single one of these bullet points within the next 2 months. So even this morning, I received an email, which was quite timely, from a family apologizing that they couldn't attend tonight because their child is staying in our residence tonight. She stays every Thursday evening, and they're taking that opportunity to take her brother to an event, to a Christmas tree lighting, and out to a Christmas village, and to have an evening out together with him. It is not something that they're other child who's an HMS student enjoys being out in the evening, the crowds, whereas being at HMS is someplace that she has an awful lot of fun at. And they're then able to have a night with their other child. Additionally, I can think of work trips that have been scheduled and parents have said, hey, can my child stay at HMS? I can think of parents who went away for the first time in 25 years and their daughter stayed at HMS. I can think of a family who had a son who played high school football. And so they wanted to go every Friday night to the games. And yet their other child, who was the HMS student, he went to bed pretty early and it was not something he enjoyed, being out on the football field. So he stayed with us every Friday night in the fall while they went to those games. Shift care staffing, I can think of someone who comes on a Thursday night now, every Thursday night, because they've had a really tough time staffing nursing on those Thursday nights. So while we still absolutely have our 5-day and our 7-day residential models, we have some other ways that we would like you to think creatively about how residents could fit into your lives and with your child as a really nice benefit.
Thank you, Laura. Patty,
Yeah.
you are up. It's like slow motion slide turning. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, Jordan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Patty Mars. I'm the nursing supervisor for HMS and as well as the COVID officer. But so thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. And you know, when we talk about residential, it always comes up. What does my child meet the criteria of an overnight stay? And so, of course, right at the top of that list is HMS student. And sometimes that's, you know, because it's an internal program, you know, we don't have other students or other people, you know, coming to stay overnight in the residence. And that's something that may not have crossed anybody's mind before, but, you know, it is something that other residential programs might have somebody that, you know, that comes in for a respite stay or a post-hospitalization or something like that. So, you know, it's only for HMS students. As Laura mentioned, we have a 5-day or 7-day option, and we do have a good mix of students that how that fits into their life, whether a 5-day and then transport home and is home on the weekends and then coming back on the Monday, or a 7-day option for a stay. And then just this year, actually, we've had a nice increase in the students that stay just for, you know, an overnight during the week, during the school day, and then stay after school, stay the one night and go home the next morning. So that's been a nice, exciting option that we've been able to experience a lot in the residence. But when we're talking about eligibility, you know, we do look at the total care of the student that would want to stay. And there are options and looking at creative ways of the student's care needs that are really focused on exactly what kind of care your child might need. So obviously for day school, and just because your student might require a one-to-one during the day school doesn't necessarily mean that they would become ineligible for an overnight stay. And as you know, HMS is always looking at options. We always are trying to figure out ways to be creative. And so if there are certain criteria, and so if right now it would be beyond something that we would be able to care for an extended or overnight stay, it would be something worth discussing on what the changes would need to be from a physician order standpoint or something like that to enable your child to stay. Or it could be where different options for an extended afternoon program or an extended stay that way, to look at creative ways that we can do that. The one thing that I know that would be something that we wouldn't be able to care for right now would be an artificial airway, a trach, or some breathing apparatus that would be, your child would be dependent on that for breathing and respiratory status. So, you know, that is one of the outstanding criteria that really we wouldn't be able to be very creative around until those orders and that sort of status changed. But if it's something, you know, for families, if it's something that you're thinking, oh, well, you know, they wouldn't maybe qualify now, but we're working towards some changes or some goals or treatment goals or medical needs that might change as they grow older, it's definitely something to keep talking about, and talking to our medical director, talking to our student care department, our residential team, and keeping that dialogue going, so that when and if that criteria, you know, becomes a non-issue, then we're ready to go and we have everything that we need, and we're hitting the ground running, so to speak, for you, and to be able to really you know, build a good program for your students. So.
Great. And now we are going to share some pictures from the residents, and Dee will help us with those.
Okay, hi everybody. This is Dee Blakeney, the official title Director of Student Care and Residential Life. So I know some of you from busing and transportation issues, and some of you from residential life. So in these 3 pictures, as many of you already know, this is Harris Hall Nurses Station, and that's the official name of HMS resident. We also have a doorway leading into a dorm room and our beautiful hallway with the wonderful windows and what have you. And I picked these particular pictures to show you is to give you an idea of how Harris Hall is set up. So first thing is the nurses station is right at the entryway of Harris Hall and in very close proximity to each of the dorm rooms. So we have what we call 3 neighborhoods, or if you prefer, pods. In the first, right this year is the boys. In the second neighborhood, we have the girls, and these are our residential students that stay basically 5 and 7 day. And then the third neighborhood are for students that stay overnight. Although, because of the census right now, we can move students closer together. So typically, no student is ever in a room by themselves, and they will have a roommate and what have you. The other reason why I showed you this picture is to show you how large our hallways are and how accessible for our power wheelchair drivers. This is a great time to practice because there's not a whole lot of people in the building, and that's one of the things that we can take advantage of. So our second slide is a girls' dorm room, and showing you the entryway. The girls, most of the girls are in the butterflies and flowers this year. And as you can see, the middle slide is a picture of one of our shower curtains in the bathroom, because all our girls are divas at HMS and princesses. And so it's good to remind them of that. And then as you can see in the third picture, we have butterflies and different pictures and things on the wall. So we do decorate, and we ask students what do they prefer. They are also allowed to bring in family photos, their favorite quilts or pillows, and that goes for decoration as well as positioning. And then as you can see in the third picture there, each individual bed has their own television. So when students are in their dorm rooms, which is funny, they're not in it that often because they like hanging out with everyone else. But when they are in there and preparing to go to sleep, they have their own individual TV that they can watch. And then in this third slide, it's actually a boys' dorm room, and a couple you aren't here know whose dorm area this is. And the first slide is our bathroom. And the reason why I took that picture is to kind of show you, not going too far into it, but the blue bed that's peeking out of the curtain where Mario is, or Luigi, I'm not sure which one it is, but is a shower bed. And that shows you some of the safety and comfort measures we have. So for students who get their overall spa treatment, that includes massage and showers during their evening time there, and washing the hair and all those things. And the shower bed goes up and down, and it allows us the flexibility to really be able to pamper the students while we shower them. And the second middle picture is a picture of one of the beds. And then, of course, as you can see, we got motor trucks and things of that nature on the wall, and also the student zone comforter. But what I want to point out is those kind of brownish coverings are there for safety to cover our bed rails. We also have inserts, so making students very, very safe when they are asleep. And the third picture is also a picture of the bed to show you that it elevates, and that's the full bed, elevates up and down. And it also, the uh, top can move up or down, and the foot also can move up and down, and that helps with positioning. So to show you some of the options that we have for students to be comfortable and as safe and as fun as possible, because our ultimate goal is for them to make memories and make friends and just have a good time and have a nice kind of dorm experience with other students at HMS.
Thank you, Dee. All right, we're going to go back to Laura Boyd.
Yeah. And before I briefly go over funding, I do want to say, knowing those of you, the parents on the screen, I can think back to some of your tours of HMS. And, you know, when families are first touring HMS, we always walk through the residence. But if residence is not on your radar, we're there briefly, and you might not look at it through the lens of thinking, could my child stay here? If it's something that you are considering or even thinking about a little bit, give us a call and we can take you on a tour through the residence, and we can actually look at the rooms and think about it through the lens of your specific child. So we encourage you to maybe come back through, or maybe you toured it, but it was years and years ago. It's worth it to take a look. Regarding funding, I will be very quick. There are a few different options for the funding, and frequently families are concerned about even inquiring about residence because of concerns of how does this get paid for? Could that be a barrier to this all working? Well, we cannot in any way guarantee the funding. What we can say is there are options, and we will help you explore them. And we will figure out which one is the correct match for your child and for what you're looking for, and then figure out how to advocate and how to really navigate what questions you're asking and how to look into this. So some of our students are funded for residence through the school district. Frequently that is for 5 and 7 day residents. Some of our residential stays for overnights are funded through waiver funding, which is billing between HMS and the county agency. You know, when they talk about you, if you have a waiver for your child and they'll say, oh, there's respite funding, that's something that can cover. We also have some pretty exciting scholarship options, and we can talk to you about how to apply and if it's the right match for your family. So, and then there is also a private pay option for some. What I would really encourage though is if it's something you're even considering, call us, review the scenario, and then we can figure out which one of these options is the right path to navigate for you and with you.
Thank you. Heading over to Charlie Harris.
Hi, everybody.
Did I skip?
Yes, skip right on.
I didn't skip you. No, it's really Laura again. I'm sorry. and then it's Charlie, I promise.
That's okay.
I quickly muted Teresa. It's okay. So transition goals. So we talk about transition in absolutely everything we do at HMS. And I can think of all the IEPs where after your child's 14 and we talk about, oh, maybe a residential stay, and it goes into a line there. But the reason we think of residents when we think about transition goals are, think about the skills your children are working on and how to make them translatable into after 3 o'clock and what it looks like. They are expanding their independence. They are trialing skills, and they're in a place where they are comfortable. We know them, they know us. So when even exploring, if you're thinking about residence for your child as an adult, it's a good place to practice at HMS. You can test staying away from home, which is not just a trial for the student, it is also practice for the families. It's really hard to be away from your child for the first night. We are open 24 hours a day, and field calls in the middle of the night, sometimes from parents who say things like, I just can't sleep. Can you just take a look at them and report back? And again, you're calling us. It's still us overnight and on the weekends. So yes, we can do that, and we can work with you on communication on how it's going to best support your family through this process. The other key component is you're looking at some testing of what skill set does your child need to know to be successful should they be looking into a residential program post 21. So I can think of a student where we identified that she really needed to navigate her schedule if she was going to be as successful as possible in her post 21 placement. That was something we were able to work on with her day in and day out. Even things like figuring out, does my child need to be able to access a call button in any place that they are going post 21? Is that something we can work on holistically through all disciplines at HMS? Now, is all of this possible or realistic? I don't know. It depends on the individual child. But it is a good spot. And I think sometimes parents say, well, you keep saying transition and try residence. What's the connection? And that's the connection. It's looking at, is this even something I want to explore post 21 at my child living away from home?
Okay, really now, Charlie.
That's okay. I'm here. One of the things right now what you're looking at is just a brief of what goes on in the evenings and weekends. So what we start with, what we want to make sure is your students have a great time while they're there. We want to make it exciting. We want to make it, them happy, finding what they like to do, as well as activities that they may end up liking as we go along. So we start with what we do start with first is themes. So themes to start, in fact, this month, right this week, we have famous authors. So sometimes the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and through the weekend, we might have all kind of activities that might have something to do with famous authors. Following week is ocean life. So we might have anything to do with that. And then finally, because it's that right before the break, holidays. So, and it's any holidays. We don't focus in on one holiday, we focus in on all the holidays. So we open it up to everyone. But as you look on this here, we start with Monday. We start with Brad. Brad comes in right after school and has all this great music for the students, and we try to do different things. And then after that, he leaves. We have games. We have card games. We have everything that people, students want to do. And after dinner, we do the same thing. Sometimes the students get to choose. We don't always students might come to us and say, I'm not interested in playing this today or doing this necessarily. If they want to just listen to their music, they're in the room with us. They share their music with everybody. And it's kind of cool. And Sierra is one of our best DJs at night sometimes. So it's really fun to have her there, and it does it. Kristen's another one. And, it's really cool when they are competing against each other sometimes too. So it's kind of fun. But you look at Tuesdays, we have dance. Rachel comes in right after school, and she has dance right after school for us. Peter Tawney, God, he's been with us, I think, since I can't remember when, but it's been over 30 years. And Peter comes in on Zoom, and he comes in, and he does a really great interaction music with the students on Tuesday. Wednesdays, we have a new dance movement therapist. She comes in after dinner. She comes in usually around 5:30 to about 7:30. So she does a lot of dance movement. She might do groups. She sometimes do small groups, or she might even do individuals as we go. But right after school that day, it could be an open, as I said, more games, more things going on. Thursday, Holly's there. Holly's such a great addition to our department. We're so happy to have her this year. And she just added all these theater games and activities that we do. And she starts as soon as like 3:15, goes through almost 7:30, and it's great. Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, it's Resident's Choice. As I was talking about our themes, a lot of times we do have things scheduled on our, we have a calendar that has all different activities on it. But if the students, again, are given an opportunity, we have students who are, old enough to make those calls. And we say, okay, if they want to like do something completely off what we have on the calendar here, it's okay. But we do try to interact as much as we can and get them involved and just make it as fun as we can. Some of the activities I was talking about are arts and crafts, board games. Kristen is an Uno specialist. I don't know how she does it. Wii games, listening to music, sometimes we watch a new movie. What's been nice, we have Disney Plus and we got Netflix. And if there's a new movie coming out, we had a couple of, Rocco one time said to me, he wanted to watch the new movie that was coming out. I can't think of the name right now, but it was so great that he really wanted to see that movie. And we made sure that he did, because he was so anxious to see it, and he got so excited that night to watch. But he didn't only watch it. A couple other students came over and said, hey, I want to see this too. So it was kind of nice. It's a nice interaction with the students and the staff. We have two great rec aides right now going on also. I'm there on Mondays. Cindy's there. Another rec therapist on Tuesdays. Kevin's on Wednesdays. And Holly's there on Thursdays. And our rec aides do a fabulous job over the weekend, as well as interacting with the PCAs who do interacting with the students as well as our department. It's really, we try to make it as much fun as we can for the students, and hopefully the learning experience is something they can take with them when they leave HMS.
Thank you. And for more fun, Tom Quinn and summer camp.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Quinn, the president of the school, and I get to talk about something that we haven't done yet. But the two words that really jump out at me that I think I've heard a number of times tonight are the words flexibility and creativity. And that's really what I think. I'm so proud to be part of our staff that does those two things so well. And the summer camp is sort of the next version of that, is that we've been talking a lot about, not only are we very proud of what the residence is, but we've been talking a lot about what we think the residence can become. And one of the things that we're looking at is, I'm in the right place, coming right after talking about the amazing things that the rec department does, is what can we look at in the summer? We've got capacity. You've also heard that too about the flexibility with our scheduling, is that we've got room to do some different things in the residence. And so for the first time, what we did was we just recently sent out a survey for parents asking, trying to find an ideal week, because we're looking at doing this, for 1 week for the first time this July. And the idea is that students who are already here for ESY, basically after the school day is over, from 3 to 7 o'clock, having summer camp-like activities that will be both run by the rec department, but also by staff that are going to be hired just for this summer camp experience. And staying for dinner, I have to say this, when the CARP started off with a quote about eating, our residents love to eat. I start my day every day by saying good morning to them when they're eating breakfast, and then I just left around 5:30, and they were all right in the middle of dinner having a really good time. So having kids have that experience in a different format than just the day school experience, and having a summer camp type experience for them to be together at dinner time, that's the programming time we're looking at from 3 to 7. And as we're talking about it, is that a lot of what we're thinking about, particularly with the summer camp, and frankly, a lot of the things we talk about with the flexibility of scheduling in the residence, and I'll let the parents who have the experience talk about this, is that that's how our students become residents, is that they have a little experience, whether it's one night, whether it's a weekend, and now potentially, possibly it might be summer camp, is that sleepover portion of summer camp will be optional. The first part, think of it as an after school activity with some fun summertime activities. But then if they're comfortable sleeping over, maybe that's sleeping over for several nights, maybe it's one night. That's where that flexibility comes in. Because again, I think what we've seen is that when students experience that for the first time, it typically leads to more experiences like that. And prior to coming to HMS, summer camp was a big part of my life and other things that I've done. I've run several camps over the years, and I'm a big fan of that. So after this 1 year where we're thinking of it as a trial this coming summer, we would love to look at, okay, how can we expand this? How can it be something that we routinely offer, not just for 1 week, but throughout the summer? Because I think what that flexibility that we've got in staff is that we do a really good job of thinking creatively and building upon things that are there. There's great capacity for the residents to have more people in it. And it is so much fun. Right now, Thursday nights are the best night because that's when we have a number of those sleepovers happening. And see the energy that's there to give kids a chance to be with each other in a different format, in a different way. It's just really fantastic to see. And the next step of that is going to see how the summer camp process works out. And I think I'm confident it's going to work out and also going to be something that we're going to grow and do more of as the years go on. So we're excited.
Thank you. And now to the experts. I'm going to stop sharing screen and I'm going to hand this over to our parents of residential students.
And we have two parent perspective joining us tonight. Kim Torres and Sookie Karp are both going to be sharing their personal experiences with their family involvement in the residence. So whoever would like to start, I will kick it off to you.
Okay, well, our daughter Sierra had really never gotten a chance to stay away from home because our families are about 700 miles away, and there was so little opportunity for her to even visit in people's houses because of accessibility issues. So it was suggested that we might think about having her stay over at the residence. And when we did give it a try with just a couple of nights in the summer, oh my gosh, she just loved it so much. And like Sam, she really thinks they're much better cooks than we are. And it really has expanded her ability to be willing to try different things at home. And so I definitely see that she is enjoying it, but she's not only enjoying it, she's also growing her skills. For example, when she's with us all the time, because we know her so well, sometimes we forget to let her express herself, and we can really kind of read her mind. What does she need? What does she want? She doesn't have to say it, but nobody there can read her mind. So she is speaking in much longer sentences. She's speaking more spontaneously. It's really exciting to see her do this because it's the main skill we came to HMS for, was to help expand her ability to communicate and to be social. So I am just thrilled with how she's done, and I wish she could do it forever. I wish we'd started it a long time ago. She's getting a lot out of it.
Thank you so much, Kim. Sookie, I'm going to hand it over to you if that's okay.
Okay. So my name is Sookie Karp. My husband, Michael, and I have been fortunate to have Sam be at HMS. I think this is his 6th year. He was in several schools before he came to HMS. And we realized that Sam was not going to really reach his potential, whatever that might be, unless he had 24/7 consistency. He was in a day program, then he would go to an aftercare program because, we were both working, and then he would come home. And so it was all competent, loving care, but it was 3 different sets of people, 3 different atmospheres with different equipment, and different sort of approaches and expectations. And so that's when it occurred to us that maybe a residential setting is right for him. So we started to look around. We live in New Jersey, North Jersey, and we quickly found that there is only one place in anywhere but, really getting down to Southern Jersey that is appropriate for Sam and his particular needs. He's got a cerebral palsy diagnosis, but it's really a genetic disorder that hasn't been named. He's in a wheelchair, he's nonverbal, he sort of points, so you can figure out, as Sierra's mom was describing, what he needs. He understands probably, what we, at the time when we were choosing HMS, we figured, I don't know, maybe he understands 20 words or 50 words or something like that. We really were not sure, but, essentially he's like a baby in a chair, but just the sweetest. We're so fortunate that he's just a total love, and he laughs, and we realized there's no place in New Jersey. So my husband just started, it was actually a random thing. He was at some kind of an expo for disabilities things, like, toys and games and equipment and stuff like that. And HMS had a table there. And he, went and talked to them, and we came for a visit. And I knew almost immediately, because of a couple things that I'll, just point to, that Michael had really found just the pot of gold for us. And, I think the most important example of it was that Sam, as I said, is nonverbal. And through all of his years of school, he's going to be 21 in January. So in all of his years in school before HMS, he would get tested for whether or not he was ready to use any kind of a communication device. And that was something that was done by, a private, communications expert. And every year, the expert would conclude he really doesn't have the skills to do anything much with this. So the insurance company would not approve it, and he wouldn't get a device. When we came to HMS, and I wish I remember, who was there at the time that we were dealing with, because one thing that's amazing about HMS is just there's people that have been there for a very, very long time, and that obviously says a lot about the success of a school like this. We told them that story, and they said, "Hang on a second." And they went into their closet and pulled out a device, and we talked about having Sam come for a couple of day trial, which we quickly set up. And as soon as he got in there for the trial, they attached this thing, like, they soldered crap to his chair right there. This kind of thing where, from my experience, you have to research it and then get your insurance to cover it and then wait 3.5 years for it to come through. They just did it. They just made it happen. And they just sent me a picture today of him on some kind of really wacky looking wheelchair / bicycle that it looks like he's actually kind of pedaling on his own. And it's not even like they touted themselves as, oh, we're working on this, they just do this stuff. And I'm sorry, what's your name? Sierra's mom?
Kim.
Kim. And as Kim was pointing out, that, you know, when your child is home and you have that parent-child dynamic, so you kind of know what they need. So you don't have to let them work harder to express it to you. And Kim pointed out that, you know, at HMS, Sierra, they didn't necessarily know exactly what Sierra wanted. So it forced Sierra to have to communicate. And I'll take it just one step further, you know, because Sam has been there for, you know, so many years now. They know exactly what Sam wants now, but they wait. It is the waiting. You have to wait. When you're a parent and you're busy, I mean, unless you're, I don't know, you have experience as a therapist and you can really kind of separate yourself from, you know, the dynamic of a parent and child, it's really hard to provide the skilled care. You know, you might think you do a great job because you love your child and you're putting it all out there. And I would never disparage anybody who does well by their child and has them at home. But I just quickly found that he advanced so quickly, you know, and they were in subtle ways. It's not that suddenly he can speak or walk, and no one expected that. But the changes that I saw over the years have just been things that I would never, ever have thought that he would be able to do. And I honestly, if I'm being honest with myself, don't think that we could have gotten from Sam what HMS got from Sam, simply because we just weren't able to figure out that, you know what, he can do this. You have to wait, you have to be patient, you have to try 40 times, not 10 times, 40 times, and in certain ways. So the commitment, I mean, when I say that this place is like a home, you know, Tom's been talking about, and everyone obviously has been talking about all the different ways that, you know, HMS is trying to expand to meet everybody's needs. Michael and I have been, you know, on Tom for a while to create a permanent residence so that Sam can just stay at HMS forever. I mean, that would be a dream. I know it's not realistic, but the quality of the care, the quality of the therapist, and you know what? It's not just what they do for the students and the residents, and it is 24/7. I mean, there is always someone to answer that phone. Always. You know, and we have had, you know, some medical issues where we've been concerned and we needed to talk for, you know, probably well over an hour. One night or another night, Sam's issues are not that severe medically, but he does have seizures, and that's been tested, that Harris Hall is open 24/7. But they're so good to us. They're so good to the parents, so patient and loving and supportive. I mean, I remember during COVID, I learned so much when Sam was at home, I have to say, because I was trying to do his therapy sessions remotely. And that's part of, again, how I learned that you can't figure this stuff out on your own. So, gosh, what else can I say? I mean, when I tell you when you walk into HMS during a holiday, you are just absolutely blown away by the artisticness. The head of the art department, Aiko, and everybody else that assists her. I remember one time I don't even remember what the holiday was, but the whole point of it was they wanted to give students an experience of flying in a plane. And as soon as you walked into the entrance, everything was designed and lit up, and you were at the TSA check-in, and then you were seated in like a hallway that had like windows on the side. So you felt like you were in a plane and there was clouds in the sky. And then you continued on a whole tour through the whole school. You just don't see that level of creativity. And I think those things really do make a difference. And finally, the last thing that I'll say is Sam is the happiest guy in the world, but I never really thought he could have friends. I didn't think that his cognition just kind of went to friendships. And man, was I dead wrong about that. Dead wrong about that. He does have friends. He does recognize people at the school, day students and the residents, and they have their little special shtick that they do. And it's just, HMS is a blessing. What can I say?
Sookie, I could add that not only does he have friends, but he's quite the ladies' man. Several of the girls are very interested in Sam, so we get a crowd sometimes outside of Harris Hall waiting to see Sam.
Okay. He's a cutie. He is a cutie. That's awesome.
Thank you both so much for sharing your experiences. I can tell you how nice it is to hear seeing both your students every day. I feel like I'm learning things new about them, not only seeing them every day, but from your personal experiences. So we really appreciate that. With the last couple of minutes, if it's okay with the both of you, we just wanted to open up the floor for any questions. Certainly our HMS staff are available to answer them, but if it's okay with you, Sookie and Kim, just parent to parent, wanted to provide an atmosphere for anyone who wanted to ask questions. If anyone wants to ask anonymously, please feel free to privately chat me and I can ask them on your behalf.
Can I ask a question? Hi,
Mhm.
can I ask a question? Okay. So just trying to think of the logistics. So Jacob in the middle of the night, he'll make some noises and stuff. So I know, because I know him, that if I just go and, put my hand on his stomach or just sort of say, it's okay, I'm here, and I put my hand on him and he'll go back to sleep. So two things about something like that. A, is there like some sort of intake where I say, hey, you don't have to turn the light on and change him and feed him and do something. This is what you do if he sort of stirs, and like some way to say, this is what movement means in the middle of the night. And the second thing, you said that usually people have a roommate, but does that disturb the other child? If one, like I know a lot of our kids are probably sort of have moments of loudness in the middle of the night. So how does that work with the roommates and such?
Well, I can answer one of those questions at least. The parents fill out a care plan, Lori, online or on paper, and it really covers the gamut of needs for your child beyond the 6 to 8 hours we normally see them. And it's one of those forms that gets revisited by the staff calling you after they've reviewed it, going through specifics, trying to get extra feedback, or I guess sort of expand your thought about what needs to be done, asking what kind of little creature comforts they like, whether it's stuffed animals or whatever they bring. I can also say that we have some students that sleep like a rock. We have had those situations where we have roommates, one who wakes up or cries out, and others who just sleep like a rock. That would be Sam. I think you could put anybody in with Sam and it wouldn't be an issue. You wanted to say something, Dee?
Just to add that, like when you first came to HMS, if Jacob comes to the residence, we do a welcome meeting, an intake meeting, if you will. So after all that paperwork is filled out and what have you, we sit there and talk to you. And lately we've been doing it by Zoom. And the benefit of that is that we try to get a representative from each shift. So the 11-7 nurse, the 3-11 nurse, the 7-3 nurses, MPCAs, so that you can talk about that. As far as rubbing the head and what have you, this is something long time ago. I used to work all the different shifts, but I've been there both when the students have gone to bed and when they wake up in the morning and things that happen in between. So part of that welcome meeting is to learn things like, he may wake up and it just means to lean over and say something to him or what have you. But also what may happen is the way we have staff positioned throughout Harris Hall at night, especially during the 11-7 shift, so that they can hear students, anybody who happens to cry out or make a noise and things of that nature. Because sometimes it's not for changing or whatever, it may be for positioning or something of that nature. So you don't want to wake them up. We have night lights, and believe it or not, especially our 11-7 shift works walk around with flashlights and what have you, so you don't disturb everybody. And these are the little nuances we'll learn about each student. But just so all the parents know, we also do what we call I call it eyeballing, but it's checking every hour just to look in on a student. You don't make any noise, you don't do anything like that, but just make sure that they're comfortable and seem to be okay. And then for students that need it, every 2 hours, we will do brief changing or position or anything like that. So that is discussed in detail before he even stays. So I hope that answered your question.
I could chime in real quick that I can share with you that one of the things we try to do across HMS is make all of us as accessible as possible. And so I have fielded specific roommate complaints from students via email that have come my way. So if somebody is not happy with noises that their roommate may be making, or there may be some sort of social conflict happening, those get to me too. So, and I'm not the only place for those to go. So we do work those things out to make sure the kids are happy in the rooms they are.
If I could just say, just from the parent perspective, when we first brought Sam, we had a whole bunch of those things, like, that you pat Jacob, if he needs it in the middle of the night. Sam's was, you have to offer him water before he'll actually lay down. But then sometimes he doesn't want it, but then he might want it in a half an hour or an hour or 2 hours, and he won't actually get a real night's sleep until he's had the water. And then a whole bunch of things around feeding. They absorbed every single one of them and implemented them, but he didn't do them anymore after not too much time. So I really felt that they weren't going to take away his security blanket, but they're professionals. They're experts, and so if they're able to shape a behavior into something a little bit more practical or grown up, they do that.
I'm going to jump in. That it's not my side of the building necessarily, but the I in Individualize that we promote throughout the school day doesn't go away at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And so what Dee didn't mention is we've had students in our past that bring 3 or 4 pillows with them, and the parents show us how to position who wants this pillow under their right arm, who has the pillow between their legs, and have come in and trained the staff exactly how to replicate what their sleeping position is at home. And that level of individualization just carries through. How do you brush your teeth from the back? Or do you approach somebody from this way? Or what do they like to use at home? So it doesn't stop at 3 o'clock, 3:15 or 4 o'clock. It's the 24/7 mantra of that everybody's an individual and we provide individualized services.
Add to what Chris is saying, we also provide trainings between day staff and residential staff for specific student equipment needs and feeding needs. And then any carryover that needs to happen, our therapeutic staff work slightly past the school day and can, we have flexed hours as needed to do specific trainings for if a student like really has a specific training need for a meal time or something like that. We have the flexibility and availability to have that one-on-one interaction, staff to staff and student to staff.
And we didn't mention, I'm sorry, I just could talk about this for hours. How many times since Sam has been there that HMS has figured out some fantastic activity to celebrate Sam's birthday. Going to the fire station and having them bring the fire truck out and ringing the bell and having, like a motorcycle run, drive by, just stuff where, if you really wanted to pull something like that off for someone you love, that you could make 100 phone calls and try to make it happen. They do that.
I just want to say that for any parents of little ones who might be thinking or considering an overnight stay, please don't look at those beautiful pictures on the slides and feel limited by that. I know that a lot of you might have a different bedroom setting, more crib-like. Not all children like to be bathed on a shower bed. Some of them like to be sitting up in a chair. We can adapt with a little bit of notice. There are rentals everywhere. We can take care of getting the proper equipment in for your child so they feel comfortable sleeping at night and getting bathed.
And I just wanted to mention one thing about the documentation that we have as well. So, from a day student perspective that, the nurses and the PCAs do documentation on input and output as far as elimination, nutritional needs, but elimination. And I mentioned elimination because it is, bowel movements are definitely one of the primary things that are important for regulation in our population in many ways, right? They have a bad day and you look at that and then explains a lot, right? And it can affect them emotionally, physically, and all kinds of ways. So the documentation, we have a documentation system that is two-way. And it's live. So when documentation is placed into the system, a parent can connect to that and see documentation as you go through. And we've had parents that will, maybe there is some sort of medical change, and it needs a little bit closer monitoring. And so instead of calling the resident 17 times, you're just like, I'm just going to check step 17 times, and our night shift and evening shifts even document the time that the designated bedtime, and then also sort of try to keep an eye on what time they actually do fall asleep, because we've had to make changes where we thought something was going to work based on their home routine, and then that's not really working that good and they're not sleeping. We're seeing changes during the day. And so sometimes the answer isn't always an earlier bedtime. Sometimes the answer is, it might be that little glass of water. It might be something that we just need to tweak a little bit. So you'll have access to all of that. And it's that specific in the residence where, that's an additional, but it's slightly different than just the day school documentation that you would receive. So I just wanted to mention that because I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't talk about bowel movements at least once. I mean, it wouldn't be residential living without that. So, you know what I mean? So I just, and then that's all I'm going to say about that.
I wish I had mentioned before, because this is so key, but I just take it for granted now. I mean, the communication that we get every day, it's just the right amount of words. So, what happened, pictures, it's productive, but it's just like happy and warm and honest. Obviously if there's problems, well then we're on the phone. But yeah, I mean, if you want to really look at everything that comes in, it it really does help you sort of see little patterns forming, developments, and then sometimes you can come up with a suggestion if you know something that, you know, HMS maybe doesn't know yet, to try to help, you know, ease a little bump in the road. The communication is outstanding.
Sure is.
Thanks so
I
much.
have a question before, if that's okay. I know we're,
I was jumping to you. I saw you unmute yourself and I wanted to make sure you had your opportunity.
well, and so, I mean, right now with Sabina being so young, and maybe not, maybe, I don't know at what age people start to look into this. And thank you so much, first of all, for having the meeting, and for Kim and Sookie. This is all, like, I can't say thank you enough for all of your input. I'm just sitting here taking it all. So thank you. But I guess, you know, as parents, we just have that guilt. It's like you have the child, you have your baby, and all of a sudden you have all this guilt, no matter what you do. And so it being for respite, I guess, at this time, and wanting to devote some special time to siblings. And I saw that on there, Laura, thank you, as one of the reasons as to why someone may choose an overnight here and there, for their respite needs. What would you say, sorry, I was interrupted there. What would you say to a parent like me, like I've just described, kind of thinking about heading in this direction and easing, I guess, my guilt or thoughts, or whatever, and taking this step, seeing as she's 10, and again, not knowing when this is sort of beginning to be explored by other parents, and that piece of just sort of wanting to be this parent for these children, and this parent, and give this opportunity to Sabina for what she may need. And that's sort of where we are. And this meeting has come so timely, and we're so grateful for it. But I still have all these things as to sort of that are just kind of in my mind. I would love anyone's input on some of what I've expressed.
So I
Let
would
someone
say
else
that
talk.
separation, parent-child separation is very hard. So there's lots of models you can test drive. And I know Laura has worked, and the team has worked with lots of our parents to offer, you know, an extended day, see how your child does with staying through dinner time and things like that. Maybe offering, you know, a camp night when you knew there were other children her age, or classmates that she was friends with who were going to be there. I think we're open to trialing any way a parent is interested in trialing. I mean, if you're open to picking your little girl up at 9 o'clock at night, because you think that's enough, or that's enough for them and they need to go home, then that's good. We're good with that. It's really trial and error. I think you won't know, but the parents who have kids there probably can speak to that as well.
I honestly think that she would just do like how she does every morning and say bye 100 times, so that she makes sure that I stay home and she goes to school and I don't follow her. But I know you don't know. I don't know what Sabina would give to me, but there's just that little piece that just sort of is always there in my mind, and wanting to make everybody happy, and of course fill everyone's needs. And just kind of wondered, you know, both from the administration side and from the parent side too, you know, how do you tackle that?
A woman that I met just from an organization near where I live, that serves a special needs community. She described it when she put her Sam in a residence. She described it as her gift to him. And when she first said it, Sam was not yet in HMS, because this is a while ago. Her son is much older than Sam. I wasn't sure how I felt about her saying that. I almost thought, oh, well, how can you send your child out of the house and you want to call it your gift to him? And that doesn't really sound honest. But, you know, once we, you know, determine for ourselves that this really was it was pretty clear that Sam was probably going to fare better and gain more skills outside of the home once we concluded that. Gosh, I mean, I've never looked back for 1 second, because I know he wouldn't be where he is now. And I feel that those, even if they're nuanced, those developments are so important to just general satisfaction in a moment for these individuals, some kind of independence, some kind of activity that's dynamic, that's not the same thing all the time in the house. I'm not articulating it well, but
No, I
completely
understand.
get what you're saying, but it's almost the opposite. If your heart is telling you, you really should look into this. It's not easy, but you go with your, I guess, try to go with your gut and not let your brain start talking about, how can you be doing this?
Michelle, I'd also say, and it's what we really want to encourage families to wrap their minds around, is it's not all or nothing, right? So Sabina doesn't leave your home, become a permanent resident of HMS and no longer a resident of your home, right? She could come, as Joan said, for dinner. She could start staying late. She could just stay overnight, one night, like a sleepover party. Maybe we could even try to figure out if there's a friend she has who also wants to stay overnight, and the girls have a sleepover party, right? Which is, what else does a 10-year-old want but a sleepover party, right?
And how often do they get a chance to get it?
And they don't, right? And that's challenging. So she comes for one night, and then she doesn't have to come for another night for a while. And you think about it and you see how it goes. And it's something to explore. And I think that level of flexibility and creativity that we can figure out specifically with your family it's a worthwhile conversation, and it might be the right match for you and it might not be the right match for you. But the thought of a 10-year-old having a sleepover party is a pretty great thought. And knowing your daughter and how much fun she has all day, it's hard to imagine she wouldn't have as much fun in the afternoons or in the evenings. But again, it's really that it's not all or nothing, and she's moving out at 10 years old, right?
No, and I get
an
that.
Experiment.
It is, yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's respite, and that's sort of, it's both, it's the not doing it. I want so badly for her to do this. We really do, because I think that she's got some siblings that really want mom to themselves, maybe for a night or two. So that's where it all sort of comes in. And this has been really great, and I'm very grateful. So thank you.
If I could just really quickly chime in on that thought, Michelle, is that one of the things that I say a lot, particularly to new parents who are joining us, is that we really do look at admitting the entire family when it comes to HMS. And so that's a really powerful and very relevant thought you just expressed about what is something the residents really can do. And I think that, and I just know how much fun she has. I mean, I think that that's also, something that's really specific about her in that way. But that really kind of makes the point of what we talk about, is that's the reason why we want this to be flexible. We want there to be because of what Chris mentioned about how individual all the kids are, that this is definitely not a one size fits all thing. We're very fortunate in that we've got capacity to be flexible in this way. And so it really sounds like it's something that is, if it makes sense for you, that we really can figure out.
And 10 years old is something that has been there, done that. It's all been covered in the residence before. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I say something? What I've noticed over the years too is something that's really cool is when the younger ones come in, the older ones they know they're the ones that are not taking over, but they want to okay, I'm the older sibling almost. And it's like, we talk about family at HMS. It's like that a lot of times in the residence. And it's like, I see the older students, really taking care of the younger ones sometimes especially when they first start and in the residence. And it's really cool to watch how that just blooms for not only the younger one, but also for the older one, feeling like, hey, I can show this person around a little bit more, and I can take care of making sure they're doing something. I mean, that each student that went through over the many years that I've been there, it's really cool to watch. And
Yeah,
Dee,
that's
I know
awesome.
you could say the same thing. So,
Everybody wants to be the person that gets to help somebody else sometimes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's cool. Very cool.
Thank you everyone so much for coming tonight and presenting and asking questions and sharing. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to end our recording. I'm going to end our meeting. We will be sharing this with families for families who were not able to attend today, so that they will get a chance to hear from everyone too. And as always, if you have questions later, you know where we are. So please, please, please reach out and ask.
We also really appreciate any feedback on our surveys after these events. We were fortunate enough to start these last year, and this is a work in progress, our Evening Education Connection program. And so we're always taking feedback, always taking ideas on how to expand, how to make them more accessible for you all. So we really appreciate any thoughts that you might have for us when that survey comes out.